G'day everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's Turbo Tristan here and we are getting back into the ED Type R swap, picking up exactly where we left off. There's a couple of surprises in this episode as well as quite a lot to get through. So we'll be attempting to get the shifter box mounted. We're going to also pull the motor so I can get under here and I can chop out the frame here and give it a little bit of clearance. As you can see there is almost no room. We have a couple of sensors to change and we'll be fitting some more exciting T7 parts to the build because as you remember last time, there is nowhere for the alternator to go. So we've got a T7 alternator relocation kit here. So here's where we got to last time in the last video. And if you're new to the channel, we are doing a K-swap on a 1988 ED Civic. We're actually putting a 2008 running gear in it, and we've put 1998 brakes and suspension and stuff in the car. So it just keeps evolving. We fitted the K series from an FN2 Type R. It's a legit Type R. That is not just red paint. It is a legit Type R K20 Z4. But in today's episode, we need to remove this engine. Now, I know what you're thinking. You just put it in there. This is a test fit. We have a couple of things which we need to mount in the engine bay. I need to mount the clutch slave cylinder up on the firewall. I need to mount the electric power steering, and we actually have a Astra electric power steering kit here. We've got all the wires and plugs, so it'll be nice and easy to change that over and give it power. And I've sourced this bracket online. It bolts up really nicely. Now we're going to mount this in the engine bay. That is going to live just here in this vicinity. So it does fit, it does clear the bonnet and everything. So I'm going to just give myself some sort of measurements here and just make sure I've got clearance, and then we're going to squeeze that in there as well. And the main reason why the engine is coming out is there is pretty much no space right here. So with the ED Civics compared to the EK Civics, see how here there is no room between the tower? In an EK, the tower is pretty much the same, but the firewall is all the way back here. So we have an extra sort of 6 or 7 inches, or around about 150 millimeters space in the back. And in the front, between the manifold and the rad support, we have about another 150 millimeters. And even though the EK Civic is still a tiny car by today's standards, compared to the ED Civic, man, we're talking about an entire foot length of room. So the whole length of the K series rocker cover is how much more space we have front and back in the engine bay. So this poses a massive challenge. That's enough of the boring stuff. Let's get to work. Time to whip this engine out one more time and notch the subframe. And just like that, no more engine. It's over here on the bench. And we're gonna do something really fun before we get into chopping up the subframe and heavy welding and all that sort of stuff. We're gonna fit a T7 Designs alternator relocation kit. Factory, the alternator sits just here in this space right there. It is very heavy. And T7 have come up with this really nice billet setup that moves it from here down to this void here. Now, it's kind of protected by all of this, and it moves everything down to right where the aircon used to be. Now, that means we won't be able to run belt-driven AC. I am looking into talking to the guys at T7 and scouring the internet about some electronic power steering, but we'll jump that hurdle in a future episode. For now, what we're going to do is get this bolted on. Now, the T7 kits are second to none. Firstly, check out these instructions. They tell you everything and how it's meant to go. Comes with a full breakdown of what's in the kit, even down to the quality of the paper. Now, I know that's silly, but the quality of the paper is really nice and thick, and everything is printed absolutely perfectly and really clear. This is a copy of their full design, so it's how to put everything together in steps. And these parts are super lightweight but super duper strong. There is a lot of CAD design and also strength testing and everything that goes into making these kits. So I'm very, very happy to be one of the Australian distributors of T7 Designs parts, and I'm also very, very happy to use them on my car and also this build. So let's get into it. No alternator, ta-da, and it is all fitted. Now, I did make one mistake when I got this out, but I forgot that this fits the PRB water pump housing. Now, they look exactly the same. There is a small difference of around about 10 millimeters down here on this plate. And I took that to a local machine shop and got them to machine that down 10 mil. This is an RBC one. This kit is made for a K20A3 or a K20A2 or a K20A, which is the popular models in England. They run a PRB water pump housing, I believe it's called. But anyway, we got there in the end. We have deleted a whole bunch of stuff and I've managed to shave that down and give us heaps of room. The reason why we fitted this is the old location for the alternator was right here. I put it right in this position here. It stuck out quite a fair way. And as a result, it fouled right here. And that's what those scratches are from on my fresh paint job I'm pretty upset about. So instead of cutting this out, we've moved it from there and we've moved it in and down, and now it'll fit right here. I've also went ahead and notched the frame right back, and we've folded this down and then welded it all the way along here, cut off that extra lip. We've ground the mount all the way back and beaten it in here, beaten the crap out of it really, and then I've welded all the way along the top so that it's back to one piece again. Previously it was stitch welded every inch or so, and it was just two pieces of steel clamped together. Now it is one piece because I've welded it all the way along here, and I've even welded it there and there where the bolts go. So they're not coming out anymore. I've welded the top of the mount together, and I've welded the bottom of the mount down to here as well. So just a bit of extra strength so it doesn't want to snap or crack or anything. And that should give us the clearance we need for the oil filter and clearance we need for the headers that are right here. I just gave this a little tidy up. I didn't grind it too much, but I just gave that a little bit of a clean up. The next thing I need to do was I was going to mount the Astra electronic power steering up here. There is room for it. It is pretty ugly. I just was looking around and I got curious and I found a space right here, and I've marked the bracket here, and that's going to hide it out of the road of the gearbox. The gearbox sits right in this position here, and it's going to give us room where the radiator goes. So it's just going to be a matter of properly tracing where that goes, mark the holes, nut cert, 3 or 4 holes in there, then we can fit that bracket on. Gives us plenty of room, sits the top of it about here. I tried it with the gear selector, which as you K series guys will know, swings back and forward here. We clear it by around about 3 inches, so it's not going to go anywhere there. Instead of running the air filter down this way, we're just going to run it around like it is on the factory FN2. It's going to sit the pod above the gearbox, and we'll put a heat shield and stuff on that later to mitigate any heat. All right, so here you can see a better look at where I'm mounting the electric power steering. It's going to be just here. I'm only going to use 3 bolts. It's not going to be that heavy, and they're M8 bolts. So we grab the Astra power steering pump, and then that is going to bolt right there. It's going to be out of the road. I did check the clearance when the engine was in the car, and that all clears with plenty of space. Here you can see a little bit better view of the rear subframe notching / bashing and mutilating. I have one more job to do before I fit the engine back in, and that is to fit the hybrid racing shifter box. 2 of these bolt holes, there's 4, 2 at the back, 2 at the front. They should line up. So I think it's the back ones will line up with the factory holes. And then I need to drill 2 holes in the front, and then I can mount that up under the car. It's got its own built-in heat shields, but I will put something over that, or maybe some heat shielding over the tunnel around this to protect it from this hot exhaust. Well, the gear shifter is now fitted. Nope, there is no steering column in there. That is a later job. We've had to pull everything out from the dash in this car just so I can get the pedals out and swap it over to a manual pedal set. But the hybrid racing shifter is in. Now, I'm not sure if that's its final resting place or not. And I've just dropped the original, that was the original automatic trim piece, which fits over there. So I'm gonna have to find a gear boot and make something for that. So here is what it looks like underneath the car. And the shifter cables just connect to the front there. And then we're gonna route those And we put that cover back on once the cables are on, and it's an undercar hybrid racing shifter box. And you can see here, it's got the part number on it. Oh yeah, and I fitted the engine as well. The next thing I'm gonna have to do under the car is a little bit of heat management. So underneath here we have the shifter cable box, and then we have this aluminum cover that goes on there. And right underneath that, in this area right here, is a flaming hot catalytic converter, or a CAT. Not my cat that's meowing in the background. So we want to manage the heat. This is coming straight up through the carpet, through the floor, right here, and heating up the gear shifter linkage, heating up the gear shifter. We don't want that. So to fix that, we're going to take this over here and we're going to put some of this NASA approved, Elon Musk approved gold tape, just heat reflective tape, that's going to go on there. It's like a double-sided stuff. You can get that on the website as well. I use it for everything where it's crucial for the heat management. So it's going to stick some of that on there like so. Get it back up in the car, and then that's one job ticked off the list. Here we have the finished product, bit of gold. This stuff works wonders with reflecting heat. So before we put that back up under the car, we're going to stick some hybrid racing cable retainers for here. And we've actually got the hybrid racing shifter cable kit up under there as well. So that is the full hybrid racing setup, even with the genuine clips. So get all that put together, and then I can get that job buttoned up and we're done. So the engine's back in and I've chucked the bar on. It's only held on with just 2 screws for now. And I've gone ahead and mounted up the Astra power steering. So that fits in there perfect. There's room to get the plugs on and off for the speed sensor. There is plenty of room here for a radiator and some hoses. And the T7 design alternator relocation kit has now given us plenty of space, a lot of serviceability. So very, very happy with that. That's excellent. And you can see here, I also made plenty of room for the oil filter. Well, not plenty of room, but there is room for the headers. So it's very, very tight up there. Very tight, but there's more room than what there was. There's probably about 5 or 6 mil maximum, but that's all we need. Clearance is clearance. So as I mentioned, buttoning the front back up. The lights and everything's all in and plugged in. I've remounted the little wires here, the little grounds for the headlights. We managed to be able to keep and retain the OEM original washer bottle, and with the new radiator that we're getting customized, we'll be able to just run that straight to there. What you can see here is the Astra power steering pump. Now I did want to move this over to here, and it would have sat up about this high, around about there, be kind of in the road of the cables, kind of in the road of the water pipes, kind of in the road of the fuel pipes. This is the shifter linkage. Doesn't go anywhere near it. So we've got plenty of space there. We've got somewhere to tuck the wiring around the back here. It's a nice short run to jot that straight there into the power steering cooler. That's the return line. And then we've got the outline here, which you can run up and around straight over this way and into the power steering rack. That is the win. That is my triumph for the day. It's time to chat about the air intake. Now we did want to use the OEM box and make this an OEM plus build and chuck a panel filter in there and run all the OEM stuff. However, with the height of the engine and how everything's going to sit in here, we can't run that. So what we do have is a BMC 3-inch pod filter with an alloy intake pipe. It does go in the exact same configuration as the OEM airbox on the FN2 Type R. Now I know what you're thinking, and I say this all the time, this is a hot air intake. We're doing our very, very best here, guys. Yes, I know. One thing about the newer Hondas, the DC5s, the FN2s, the FD2s, all those cars, they have the air filter right up here and the headers right there. If you think back to the earlier ones where you have the pod filter over here and then the B series or D series headers right here, similar stuff. It's not good for it. On my K-swap, I have the air filter going down here, and there's a little bit of a pocket down here where it's getting some cool air, some air that's coming past and through the radiator, and it's just sort of out of the way of the big heat soaker that's down the back there. We don't have much choice in this engine bay, so we've gone with the OEM style with the pod filter. We do have to put some fittings on there. We are going to just run the breather straight into the air intake as it would be OEM. We don't need a high performance oil catch can like we do on my car. We're not running E85 and it's not boosted. So just relieving the vacuum from the crankcase straight back into the intake will be fine on this. Plus it's all fresh with fresh everything, so it's not going to be blowing any oil out of the dipstick or any oil out of the rocker cover. For the Haltech, we are going to run an air intake temp sensor underneath there. That's very important. That helps monitor things like not only the air intake, but also helps with how much fuel to put in or out. It helps with how much timing to pull in or out as well, because the temperature of the air going in really affects the tune. So Haltech air intake temp sensor is going in there. And of course, the BMC pod filter. This is Formula One technology. It says race power on there, so we know it's going to be good, and it matches everything in the engine bay. So it's just red, black, and silver. That's the whole theme for this car. Well, that's going to be it for this video. So don't forget to like and share. If you haven't already, subscribe. Show this to any of your friends or family that are interested in K-swap Civics or just interested in resto mods in general. This is a really cool build, and I'm so excited to be doing it and showing you guys what I'm doing on this car. Most of this stuff is a first for me, so I'm really enjoying it and passionate about the project. In the next video, we'll be going through a whole bunch of suspension upgrades. Yep, we've got way more to go on this car. We're not done with the mods yet. We'll be tackling the exhaust system, we'll be tackling the wiring, and I'll be unveiling all of the ECU goodies from Haltech and the full range of what we're doing for the engine management and the wiring on this car. So don't forget to spool up, bring the boost, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.